At 11:47 p.m. on October 3rd, officers Jason Brandt and Kelsey Hoffman arrived at 2847 Willow Creek Drive in response to a noise complaint. A neighbor had reported raised voices and what sounded like furniture being moved. It was their fourth call of the night. Routine. Pay attention to the white sedan in the driveway. Note the curtains drawn tight across every window. The property looks unremarkable. A rental home in a quiet suburban neighborhood outside Columbus, Ohio. Officers Brandt and Hoffman approach the front door. Standard procedure. They knock 3 times and identify themselves. No answer. They knock again. This time, they hear movement inside. Shuffling. Something heavy being dragged. The door opens 6 inches. A man stands in the gap. His name is Leonard Pike. He is 41 years old, works in IT support, and has lived at this address for 9 months. He appears calm. He apologizes for the noise. He was rearranging furniture, moving a bookshelf. He's sorry if he disturbed anyone. Officer Hoffman asks if everything is all right. Pike nods. He starts to close the door. That's when Officer Brandt sees it. Through the narrow opening in the hallway behind Pike, there's a deadbolt lock on the outside of an interior bedroom door. Within 20 minutes, what began as a noise complaint would become a major criminal investigation. This was not routine. This was not furniture being moved. Officer Brandt stopped the door with his hand. He asked Pike about the lock. Pike's demeanor shifted. The calm evaporated. He said it was for storage, for security. Officer Brandt asked to see inside the room. Pike refused. The officer's training kicked in. Hoffman called for backup while Brandt kept Pike engaged. Pike became agitated. He insisted they needed a warrant. He moved to shut the door. Officer Brandt prevented it from closing. Backup arrived at 11:54 p.m. Detective Vincent Torres was 7 minutes away when he got the call. A possible hostage situation. He arrived to find Pike in handcuffs on the front lawn, 3 patrol cars with lights flashing, and officers Brandt and Hoffman standing guard at the front door. They had probable cause. The exterior deadbolt. Pike's refusal to cooperate. The sounds of movement from behind that locked door. Detective Torres made the call. They were going in. The bedroom door was reinforced. Not standard residential construction. Pike had installed additional locks, a sliding bolt, a padlock. The doorframe had been fortified with metal brackets. It took them 4 minutes to breach it. Inside, the room was dark. The windows had been covered with black plastic sheeting and duct tape. No natural light had entered this space in months. The air smelled of sweat and unwashed bedding. There was a twin mattress on the floor, a bucket in the corner, a bottle of water, nothing else. Huddled against the far wall, wrapped in a thin blanket, was a young woman. Her name was Brooke Sanderson. She was 22 years old. She had been missing for 127 days. Brooke couldn't speak when they found her. She was severely malnourished, dehydrated, and in shock. Paramedics arrived within minutes. She was alive. Barely. As EMTs loaded her into the ambulance, Detective Torres turned his attention to Leonard Pike. Pike sat silent in the back of a patrol car. He showed no emotion, no panic, no remorse. Torres had worked missing persons for 11 years. He knew what he was looking at. This was not a crime of passion. This was not a domestic dispute gone wrong. This was predation. Brooke had been reported missing on June 8th by her mother, Ruth Sanderson. She had left their home in Marion, Ohio that morning to visit a friend in Columbus, a 2-hour drive. She never arrived. Her car was found 3 days later in a Target parking lot in Westerville. The keys were in the ignition. Her purse was on the passenger seat. Her phone was gone. The Marion Police Department treated it as a missing person case. They interviewed her friends and family. They reviewed security footage from the parking lot. They tracked her phone. The last ping came from a cell tower near that Target store at 2:17 p.m. on June 8th. Then, nothing. Ruth Sanderson appeared on local news. She distributed flyers. She organized search parties. The case generated some media attention in the first 2 weeks. Then, it faded. Brooke Sanderson became another young woman who had vanished without explanation. Ruth never stopped looking. She called the police department every week. She maintained a Facebook page dedicated to finding her daughter. She never believed Brooke had left voluntarily. She was right. Detective Torres established a command center at the Columbus Police Department. The FBI was notified. This was now a federal kidnapping case. The first priority was Brooke. She was transported to Riverside Methodist Hospital and placed in the ICU. She was suffering from severe malnutrition, dehydration, and vitamin deficiencies. She had lost 34 pounds. Her condition was critical, but stable. She couldn't provide a statement. Not yet. The trauma was too severe. Medical staff sedated her to allow her body to begin recovery. The second priority was Leonard Pike. He was taken to the Columbus Police Headquarters and placed in an interrogation room. He requested a lawyer immediately. He said nothing else. The third priority was the house at 2847 Willow Creek Drive. A forensic team arrived at 1:30 a.m. They would spend the next 18 hours processing the scene. What they found would change the scope of the investigation entirely. The bedroom where Brooke had been held was only the beginning. The forensic team documented everything: the reinforced door, the covered windows, the minimal furnishings, the bucket that served as a toilet, the single light bulb controlled by a switch outside the room. Pike's bedroom revealed more. On his laptop, investigators found a folder labeled Research. Inside were dozens of saved articles about missing persons cases. He had been studying them, learning from them, understanding what mistakes other abductors had made. There was a second folder labeled Profiles. It contained screenshots of social media accounts, 23 different young women, all between the ages of 19 and 25, all living in Ohio, all with public Instagram or Facebook profiles. Brooke Sanderson's profile was among them. So was her address, her daily routine, her mother's name, her car's make and model. Pike had been watching her for weeks before June 8th. The digital forensics team went deeper. They found Pike's browser history, searches for sedatives, searches for soundproofing materials, searches for how long a person could survive on minimal food and water. In Pike's garage, they found the soundproofing foam he'd never installed, rolls of plastic sheeting, zip ties, duct tape, a case of bottled water, protein bars, a handwritten list with dates and times. This was not impulsive. This was methodical. On October 5th, Detective Torres received a call from FBI Special Agent Dana Whitmore. She had been reviewing Pike's digital footprint. She found something Torres needed to see immediately. Pike had been active on true crime forums. Under various usernames, he had posted hundreds of comments analyzing abduction cases. He critiqued perpetrators' methods. He identified their mistakes. He discussed how certain crimes could have been executed more successfully. Agent Whitmore traced his accounts back 3 years. His interest had been building, evolving. He had gone from passive observer to active researcher. The timeline was clear. The folder on his laptop with 23 profiles had been created 14 months ago. He had been planning this for over a year. The question that kept Torres awake was simple. Had Brooke been his first? The task force expanded. 23 profiles, 23 potential victims. Each one needed to be accounted for. The team worked systematically. They cross-referenced the profiles against missing persons databases. 19 of the women were located quickly. They were safe. They had moved, changed jobs, gotten married. They had no idea their photos had been saved by a stranger. That left 4. Brooke Sanderson, accounted for. Michelle Torres, 24, reported missing from Dayton in January. Still missing. Kimberly Wallace, 21, reported missing from Cincinnati in April. Still missing. Autumn Boyd, 23, last seen in Cleveland in August. Her disappearance had never been officially reported. Her family thought she had moved out of state. 3 women, 3 cities, 3 cases that had no suspects and no leads. Until now. Leonard Pike's lawyer arrived at 3:00 a.m. on October 4th. Stephen Milbrook, a criminal defense attorney from Columbus. He met with Pike privately for 40 minutes. When they emerged, Milbrook had a message for Detective Torres. His client had no comment on the charges. He would not be making a statement. He would not be answering questions. He invoked his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Torres had expected this. He didn't need Pike to talk. The evidence would speak for him. Pike was formally charged with kidnapping, unlawful restraint, and aggravated assault. Bond was denied. He was transferred to Franklin County Jail to await trial. Torres watched him being led away. Pike walked calmly. His expression never changed. He wasn't seeing the officers around him. He wasn't seeing the building. He was somewhere else entirely. Torres had seen that look before. In his 15 years working violent crimes, he had learned to recognize it. Predators who believed they were smarter than everyone else, who saw their victims as objects, who felt no remorse. Leonard Pike was a textbook case. Brooke Sanderson remained hospitalized for 8 days. Her physical recovery was progressing. Her psychological recovery would take much longer. On October 11th, she was finally able to speak with investigators. Ruth Sanderson sat beside her daughter's hospital bed. A victim advocate was present. Detective Torres kept the interview brief. Brooke remembered June 8th. She had been loading groceries into her car at the Target in Westerville. A man approached. He said her left rear tire looked low. He offered to check it. She said yes. She remembered bending down to look at the tire. Then, nothing. She woke up in the dark room. Her hands were bound. There was tape over her mouth. Pike had drugged her. Analysis of her blood upon rescue showed traces of Rohypnol, the date rape drug. He had likely slipped it into a water bottle he offered her in the parking lot. Brooke didn't know how long she'd been unconscious. When she woke, Pike was there. He explained the rules. No screaming, no attempting to escape. If she cooperated, she would be fed. If she didn't, she would go without. He visited the room twice a day, morning and evening. He brought water and food. Sometimes he just watched her. He never touched her sexually. He never physically assaulted her. But the psychological torture was constant. He told her no one was looking for her anymore. He told her she had been forgotten. He told her this was her life now. Brooke believed him. After the first month, she stopped counting days. After the second month, she stopped hoping. The noise complaint from the neighbor, Pike moving furniture loudly at nearly midnight, had saved her life. Without it, she would still be in that room. Detective Torres assembled a specialized task force, FBI agents, Ohio State Police, local departments from Dayton, Cincinnati, and Cleveland. Their mission was clear: find Michelle Torres, Kimberly Wallace, and Autumn Boyd. They started with Pike's movements, cell phone records, credit card statements, GPS data from his car. They built a timeline of everywhere he had been in the past 18 months. Pike had made trips to Dayton, Cincinnati, and Cleveland. Each trip corresponded to the timeline when the three women went missing. January 14th, Pike's phone pinged off towers in Dayton. Michelle Torres was last seen January 15th. April 3rd, Pike's credit card showed a gas purchase in Cincinnati. Kimberly Wallace disappeared April 4th. August 12th, Pike's phone was in Cleveland. Autumn Boyd vanished August 13th. The pattern was undeniable. He would travel to a city, scout his target, return days later to execute the abduction. But where were they now? Agent Whitmore made the breakthrough. She had been investigating Pike's finances. He made $68,000 per year working IT support. Not wealthy, but stable. His bank records showed regular deposits and typical expenses, except for 3 unusual payments. Large cash withdrawals made in January, April, and August. $4,000 in January, $3,500 in April, $4,200 in August. The amounts matched first and last month's rent, plus security deposit for residential properties. The task force obtained a warrant for Pike's email accounts. They found what they were looking for: correspondence with landlords, lease agreements signed under aliases. Pike had been renting properties in Dayton, Cincinnati, and Cleveland. 3 properties, 3 missing women, 3 locked rooms. On October 15th, coordinated raids were executed simultaneously in all 3 cities. At 6:00 a.m., a SWAT team breached the door of a small ranch house on Elmwood Avenue in Dayton. The layout was similar to the Columbus property: quiet neighborhood, residential street, nothing that would draw attention. They found the bedroom immediately. Same setup. Exterior, deadbolt, reinforced door, blackened windows. The room was empty. No mattress, no bucket, no evidence anyone had been there recently. The forensic team processed the scene anyway. They found hair samples, skin cells, trace DNA. Michelle Torres had been there, but she wasn't anymore. The Cincinnati team hit an apartment in Oakley at the same time. Second floor of a 3-unit building. Pike had rented it under the name Lawrence Porter. They found the locked room. They breached it. Inside was Kimberly Wallace. She was alive. She had been held for 6 months. She was in similar condition to Brooke. Malnourished. Traumatized. But alive. Paramedics transported her to University of Cincinnati Medical Center. Her family was notified. They had never stopped searching. Kimberly Wallace became the second survivor. The Cleveland location was a basement apartment in a duplex near West 65th Street. The property manager said Leonard Pike, using the alias Leon Patterson, had been a model tenant. Quiet, paid rent on time, never caused problems. The SWAT team entered through the main floor and descended to the basement unit. They found the reinforced bedroom door. Inside was Autumn Boyd. She had been held for 2 months. She was conscious. She asked if she was really being rescued, or if this was another one of Pike's psychological games. The officers assured her it was real. She collapsed in relief. Autumn Boyd became the third survivor. The Dayton house yielded no living victim, but the forensic evidence told the story. Michelle Torres had been held there from mid-January until late March. Then she was moved. The question was, moved where? Detective Torres returned to Pike's financial records. In late March, there was another large cash withdrawal, $5,000, but no corresponding lease agreement in the emails, no paper trail. The task force faced a grim reality. Pike had learned from his first abduction. He had become more careful, more sophisticated, more prepared. Michelle Torres had been missing for 9 months. With each passing day, the likelihood of finding her alive decreased. The forensic psychologist's report arrived on October 22nd. Dr. Helen Vasquez had reviewed all available evidence: Pike's online activity, his methodical planning, his treatment of the victims. Her assessment was clear. Leonard Pike was a sexual sadist with narcissistic personality disorder. He derived satisfaction not from physical assault, but from total control. From the power of having complete dominion over another person's existence. The locked rooms, the isolation, the psychological manipulation. These weren't means to an end. They were the end itself. He kept them alive because their continued captivity fed his sense of superiority. He was proving, to himself, that he was smarter than law enforcement, smarter than society, untouchable. The fact that he had multiple victims simultaneously demonstrated the scope of his pathology. One captive wasn't enough. He needed more. He was building a collection. Dr. Vasquez's report concluded with a warning. Pike would never voluntarily reveal Michelle Torres' location. To do so would be to surrender control. And control was everything to him. On November 3rd, a maintenance worker at a storage facility in Grove City, Ohio, contacted the Columbus Police Department. He had seen the news coverage of Leonard Pike's arrest. He recognized Pike as a customer who rented a climate-controlled unit at the facility. Pike had been paying monthly in cash. He visited the unit regularly, always alone, always brief visits. The maintenance worker had never thought much of it until he saw Pike's face on television. Detective Torres obtained a warrant within hours. At 2:00 p.m., he and Agent Whitmore arrived at Grove City Storage Solutions, Unit 247. They cut the lock. Inside were boxes, dozens of cardboard boxes neatly stacked against the walls. Torres opened the first box. Inside were driver's licenses, credit cards, phones, all belonging to Brooke Sanderson, Kimberly Wallace, and Autumn Boyd. Their personal belongings, trophies. He opened a second box. Michelle Torres' driver's license, her phone, her car keys, her purse. But there was more. At the back of the storage unit, covered by a tarp, was a large chest freezer. It was plugged into the wall outlet. Running. Torres felt his stomach drop. He knew what this meant. He opened the freezer. Inside, wrapped in plastic sheeting, was the body of Michelle Torres. She had been dead for approximately 4 months. Preliminary assessment suggested she had died from complications related to malnutrition and dehydration. Pike had let her die. Then, he had stored her body. He hadn't been ready to dispose of it. Perhaps he never would be. Perhaps this, too, was part of his collection. The crime scene technicians worked through the night processing the storage unit. They documented everything: the personal belongings, the freezer, the body. Michelle Torres' family was notified on November 4th. They had spent 9 months hoping. Now they had an answer. Not the one they wanted, but an answer. Leonard Pike was charged with 1 count of murder in the death of Michelle Torres. He was charged with 3 counts of kidnapping for Brooke Sanderson, Kimberly Wallace, and Autumn Boyd. Multiple counts of unlawful restraint, aggravated assault, evidence tampering. If convicted on all counts, he faced life in prison without the possibility of parole. His lawyer, Stephen Milbrook, entered a plea of not guilty. Pike still refused to speak. He showed no reaction when the murder charge was read in court. The trial was scheduled for March of the following year. Brooke Sanderson, Kimberly Wallace, and Autumn Boyd were offered intensive trauma counseling and support services. Each woman faced a different path to recovery. Brooke moved back to Marion to live with her mother. She attended therapy 3 times per week. She couldn't be alone in a room with the door closed. She couldn't sleep in the dark, but she was alive. Kimberly returned to her family in Cincinnati. She struggled with trust. She couldn't interact with men without panic attacks. But she was working with specialists, making progress slowly. Autumn relocated to another state to escape media attention. She wanted privacy. She wanted to rebuild her life away from the trauma. Her family respected that choice. None of the 3 women would testify at trial. The evidence was sufficient without their testimony. The prosecution didn't want to force them to relive the horror. The trial of Leonard Pike began on March 12th. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence: the locked rooms, the digital files, the storage unit, the body of Michelle Torres. Pike's defense team argued diminished capacity. They presented evidence of childhood trauma, social isolation, possible autism spectrum disorder. They claimed Pike's actions, while criminal, were the result of severe mental illness rather than calculated evil. The prosecution countered with Dr. Vasquez's report, Pike's methodical planning, his research into other abduction cases, his ability to maintain employment and appear normal to coworkers and neighbors. These demonstrated clear understanding of right and wrong, clear ability to control his actions. The jury heard from Detective Torres, from Agent Whitmore, from the forensic technicians, from the officers who first breached the door at 2847 Willow Creek Drive. They saw photos of the locked rooms. They heard audio of Brooke's initial police interview. They reviewed Pike's disturbing online activity. The defense called expert witnesses who testified about Pike's psychological state. They painted a picture of a deeply disturbed individual who needed treatment, not punishment. The prosecution's closing argument was direct. They acknowledged Pike's possible mental illness. They acknowledged his troubled past, but they emphasized one undeniable fact: Pike knew what he was doing. He planned meticulously. He executed carefully. He tried not to get caught. That demonstrated consciousness of guilt. That demonstrated criminal intent. The jury deliberated for 8 hours. On March 24th, the jury returned guilty verdicts on all counts: murder, kidnapping, unlawful restraint, aggravated assault. Leonard Pike showed no emotion as the verdicts were read. He stared straight ahead. His lawyer placed a hand on his shoulder. Pike didn't react. Sentencing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. Judge Raymond Castellano had presided over the trial with a measured authority. On April 7th, he delivered Pike's sentence. For the murder of Michelle Torres, life in prison without possibility of parole. For the kidnapping of Brooke Sanderson, Kimberly Wallace, and Autumn Boyd, 3 additional life sentences to run consecutively. Leonard Pike would die in prison. There was no possibility of parole. No possibility of appeal that would change this outcome. The evidence was too strong. The crimes too clear. Judge Castellano addressed Pike directly. He noted that Pike had shown no remorse, no acknowledgement of the suffering he had caused, no humanity toward his victims. The judge's final words were simple. The justice system had held Pike accountable. The families had answers. The survivors had validation. Pike was led out of the courtroom in shackles. He never looked back. Ruth Sanderson established a foundation in Michelle Torres's name. The Michelle Torres Missing Persons Awareness Fund. It provides resources to families of missing adults. It advocates for better coordination between police departments on missing persons cases. Brooke Sanderson, Kimberly Wallace, and Autumn Boyd maintained their privacy. They issued a joint statement thanking law enforcement, thanking the neighbor who made that noise complaint, thanking everyone who had searched for them. They asked to be left alone, to be allowed to heal without public scrutiny. Media outlets largely respected that request. Detective Vincent Torres received a commendation for his work on the case. He continued working missing persons. The case never left him. He kept photos of Brooke, Kimberly, Autumn, and Michelle on his office wall. A reminder of why the work mattered. Officers Jason Brandt and Kelsey Hoffman were recognized for their vigilance. The exterior deadbolt on an interior door. They had noticed. They had acted. That observation saved lives. The full scope of Leonard Pike's crimes may never be known. The 23 profiles on his laptop, the years of online activity, the methodical planning. Had there been others before Brooke? Women who disappeared and were never connected to Pike? The task force investigated. They found no additional evidence, but the question lingered. Pike never spoke. He provided no information, no confessions, no closure beyond what the evidence revealed. He was transferred to a maximum security facility. He spends 23 hours per day in his cell. No control over others anymore, just the control he has over his own silence. The case prompted changes in how missing persons cases are handled in Ohio. Better coordination between departments, faster dissemination of information, more resources for families. The storage unit discovery led to new protocols. Law enforcement now routinely checks rental properties and storage facilities when investigating serial offenders. The exterior deadbolt, such a small detail, became part of training materials. Officers are now taught to watch for environmental modifications that suggest unlawful restraint. A routine noise complaint changed everything. Without it, Brooke Sanderson would still be in that locked room. Kimberly Wallace and Autumn Boyd would never have been found. Michelle Torres's body would still be in that freezer. Small details matter. Vigilance matters. 1 observant neighbor. 2 alert officers. A detective who followed every lead. The house at 2847 Willow Creek Drive stands empty now. The landlord had the bedroom door removed, the reinforced frame torn out, the blackened windows replaced. But he can't rent it. No one wants to live there. The storage unit has been cleared. Unit 247 is available for rent again. Climate controlled, $95 per month. Leonard Pike sits in a cell in Marion, Ohio, 50 yards from where Brooke Sanderson grew up, where Ruth Sanderson still lives. The irony is not lost on anyone. Brooke is rebuilding her life, one day at a time, one therapy session at a time. She has bad days. She has better days. She survived. Kimberly Wallace and Autumn Boyd are doing the same. They live with the trauma. They push forward anyway. Michelle Torres is buried in Dayton. Her family visits every Sunday. Ruth Sanderson visits too sometimes. 2 mothers who understand loss in a way no one else can. Officers Brandt and Hoffman still work the same patrol route. They still respond to noise complaints. They look more carefully now at every door, every lock, every seemingly routine call. Because sometimes routine calls aren't routine at all. Sometimes they reveal exactly what someone tried desperately to hide. Sometimes they save lives. This was one of those times.